You have tuned into the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Holio. Hey everybody, this is the BearDown Corner. I'm Sergeant Holio, and we got you ready for this week's episode edition to get you caught up after those weekend's games and get you ready for next weekend's games. Let's get right into it, shall we? All right, so Thursday Night Football had the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the Cincinnati Bengals, where you had two old ball fucking quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco flailing and flicking this ball around as if they were like 20 years old again. At the end of the day, Jamar Chase caught 16 catches for 161 yards and one touchdown, as Joe Flacco passed for 3 touchdowns in that game to win 33-31 on a last-minute field goal for Cincinnati to get the win. London morning game had LA Rams being hosted by the technical home team in Jacksonville Jaguars, and Jaguars didn't show up at all. Brian Thomas Jr. once again not catching anything that's being put right on his goddamn chest. You have him being questionable now with whatever the hell's going on with him now. Trevor Lawrence looked like dog shit. Their defense is just slouching, it seems like now. Now, they were without star corner or linebacker Floyd this weekend, but that's no excuse. You let LA Rams come in to London, which you have a signed contract to be the home team for 2 games a year, and you get steamrolled. Matthew Stafford passed for 5 touchdowns, 182 yards on 21 completions on this day. Not to mention Devontae Adams caught 3 of those touchdowns. So, yeah, congratulations, LA. Keep it moving. Jacksonville, you better get shit figured out quick. 4-3 does not look good after you started 4-0. New Orleans went into Chicago, where you know what? I'll just give you the Bears rundown of it. The defense showed up in the first half worth. We had a little bit of back and forth come the second, but at the end of the day, they did just enough and ran the ball very effectively, mind you. DeAndre Swift with 124 yards on the ground and a touchdown as well. And then Managai, I think is how you pronounce it, 81 yards and a touchdown. On this day, we had over 200 rushing yards between our 2 running backs. So, hell of a performance. That's 4 straight wins now. We're 4-2, and we're just going to keep on going. New England travels to Tennessee, where they were hosting their former head coach in Mike Vrabel. Did not disappoint. Drake May, 21-23 for 222 yards and 2 tutties as he helped control that game. And Rashamond Stevenson, running back of the New England Patriots, had 80-plus yards on the ground and a touchdown to boot. 31-13 was the final there. Miami traveled to Cleveland, where they got steamrolled. Shocker, against a good defense. They made Tua look like a tool bag this Sunday, picking him off 3 times. He got benched for Quinn Ewers, I believe his name is, backup quarterback that beat out Zach Wilson in the offseason for number 2. So, like, I don't know where Miami goes from here. You might as well start jettisoning a bunch of your players off this roster and get what you can to rebuild, because you ain't going nowhere this year. If you keep starting Tua, and also reports come out, they're going to stick with Tua for this upcoming week's game. Mike McDaniels, your job is on the line, dude. So I guess if you're going to ride and die with your boy, well, he's going to run you into the ground, because this is not going to go well for you. Anyway, to highlight that game, as it was a 31-6 victory, Quishon Judkins had 80-plus yards rushing and 3 touchdowns up the middle. Carolina went into the New York Jets, where Xavier Legette, between 2 quarterbacks, because Bryce Young went down, he'll miss at least 1 game. Nothing too serious, just little bit of injury they just want to be careful with. I think it's to do with something with his foot or something like that, again from last year, so just being cautious. But Yeah, they went 12-6 in that game after 2 consecutive weeks when Rico Dowell ran roughshod on all those other defenses. This game, he was held to 70 plus rush yards and a couple of receptions. Philadelphia traveled into Minnesota where Jalen Hurts put on an air show, and to boot on a 28-22 victory. A.J. Brown, 4 catches, 121 and 2 touchdowns, and Devontae Smith with 9 catches, 183 yards and 1 touchdown. Las Vegas went into the Kansas City Chiefs where they got steamrolled with a big old fat 0 as the KC come out with 31 points. Rashee Rice, welcome back to the team with 7 catches, 42 yards, and 2 touchdowns. New York Giants go to Denver where this was a very, very interesting game. We all thought Denver was done, but after 3 scoreless quarters, they score 33 unanswered. Well, not unanswered. There was a score later in the 4th that gave New York the lead again. But after back and forth in it with them, they score 33 points in the 4th and win it on a Will Lutz final field goal of regulation ending. 33-32. Denver comes away with a huge victory. Bo Nix, he just put the team on his back, and let's just go start doing it, boys. He had 279 total yards and 4 total touchdowns in the 4th. 2 rushing, 2 passing. I don't know what better to say other than, you know what? Keep Bo leaving. Indianapolis travels to the Los Angeles Chargers where they win 38-24, and Danny Dimes throws a pair of touchdowns, keeps that offense just rolling, and Jonathan Taylor again with a strong 120 plus yards, total scrimmage yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. This man is having an MVP caliber running back season right now. So if you're not on board with Indianapolis being one of those for real teams, I feel they are. The defense steps up as they need to. They have a run game that's like none other in the league. You got Danny Dimes looking like he's a top pick quarterback, why he was picked 8th overall back in the day by New York. And an offensive line that just protects the shit out of everything. This was a team literally just one quarterback away. They went and found him. So, yeah, looking like a pretty goddamn good decision, Shane Steichen. You might have just saved your job this year. Washington goes to Dallas, where the Commanders get doubled up on with a 44-22 victory for the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb went 5 of 110 and 1 touchdown. Javonte Williams, 116 on the ground and 1 touchdown. Dallas looking good. That high-octane power offense is probably going to have to lead them to a lot of victories this year if they hope to make a push for the playoffs. Green Bay travels into Arizona where a Cardinals team that was led by backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett almost led them back to a come-from-behind victory, as it's like Green Bay just makes it hard on themselves. I don't know how else to put it. Their highlight player was Tucker Kraft with 5 catches, 51 yards, and 1 touchdown. Yeah, and you know what? That's all I really want to say about Green Bay. Sunday Night Football hosted the Atlanta Falcons going into the San Francisco 49ers, where Christian McCaffrey had himself a day, leading the 49ers to a 20-10 victory with over 200 scrimmage yards. He had 72 receiving yards on 7 receptions and 129 on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. These guys are literally doing voodoo magic to keep McCaffrey healthy. As you know what, it seems at this point that's their main that's their main offensive weapon right now. Yes, they have other guys that make the plays, but at the end of the day, everything is running through McCaffrey. So if he somehow goes down, I don't know what to expect for the 49ers, but they've been straining this shit together though. Tampa Bay goes into Detroit to open up the first of 2 Monday night games where Detroit held them in check. Defensively, they only allowed them to score 3 field goals. Sorry, a touchdown and 1 field goal. There was a missed 2-point conversion. And Detroit, Jamari Gibbs, 131 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and over 82 receiving yards. There's not much else to say other than they are here, and they're here to win, and they want to win. They have a team to do it. Defensively, they're only better than last year because they're actually healthy this year. Offensively, they haven't missed a step. So I don't think this team's going to be reversing back like a lot of people thought just because they lost their coordinators. And then Houston traveled to Seattle for the second game of the Monday Nighters. And boy, did it not disappoint. That Seattle defense, and even Houston's for that matter, what a back and forth defensive shit show. Like, that was one of those games where, you know what, you're going to get some stuff, you're going to get your scores, all that crap, but at the end of it all, Zach Charbonnet had 2 rushing touchdowns. You had Jackson Smith Najigba going for 8 catches, 123, and 1 touchdown. And they just looked like they controlled the game on the offensive side a hell of a lot better than Houston, where they just looked like lost little puppy dogs. Now, they did lose their star wide receiver, Nico Collins, in this game. Now, that was with a concussion. Hopefully he gets through all protocols this week for the upcoming weekend's game. But, yeah, Houston loses 27-19 in what, yes, some people might call, oh, it's only 1 touchdown and a 2-point. No, that was a garbage time touchdown by Houston. Seattle is showing they're for real. And they're going to be a tough contention as they try to vie for that NFC West crown once again. Mike Evans suffered a broken literally said this earlier. Clagdia. I don't know. Anyway, he's going to be missing some time. Needless to say. So this puts his 1,000-yard receiving yards record of trying to break Jerry Rice on this. It puts it at jeopardy this season. So maybe we'll see him back. Maybe he'll be tip form shape. 2 to 3 weeks, give or take, possibly even more. But we'll see what comes from that. And also, Brandon Graham, former defensive end linebacker of the Philadelphia Eagles, is coming out of retirement to go for another run with the Eagles as they hit the halfway mark more or less through the season. So that is exciting to come forth. Former running back Doug Martin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had multiple Pro Bowls and an All-Pro season back in the day where he had 14 rushing touchdowns and a 1,400-yard season, dead at the age of 36. The little bit of information I was able to get from it, not much is being released yet, but it was a confrontation as police were investigating a break-in of some sort. There was a struggle, and apparently he passed away on his way with the paramedics to the hospital. So what was Doug Martin doing is kind of what I'd like to know. So when we get more information on that, we'll update you on that on next week's episode of the BearDown Corner. Commanders Jaden Daniels is again hamstring, but reports coming out, it's not as serious as expected, so he should be back hopefully this week. If not, probably be a 1-game absence, and if that's the case, Marcus Mariota will get the start. But what is bad news is your starting defensive end, Commanders fans, in Duran Armstrong with 5.5 sacks. He's out for the year with a knee injury. So that is too bad, so sad. To finish off, you got Bryce Young expected to miss 1 game after this week's kerfuffle, so he'll be out. You'll have Andy Dalton starting for him this upcoming weekend, and the Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels with Tua as his starting quarterback once again. That is going to bring us to the conclusion of the Bear Down Corner. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm Sergeant Julio. You can catch us live every Tuesday, 6 o'clock General Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. You all have a great week. Be safe. Take care. And we'll catch you next week here on the Bear Down Corner.